Hello, writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes, your channel all about writing. I'm your host, who is secretly a ghost, Kamal Onor. I want to let you know that if you are seeing this video, it means that I am in the process of moving. I don't know when the next video will be that I will be able to post because I do have to wait for my equipment to be shipped to my new apartment. I need to wait until I have everything set up in my new place. So make sure that if you want to stay up to date with all things spooky and all things writing, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give this video a good thumbs up, help spread the channel, it means a lot. What do you imagine the day-to-day of being an author to look like? Is an author's day spent just waking up whenever they feel like, sitting down to a full pot of coffee and just writing every single day filled with inspiration? Is an author constantly supported and surrounded by friends, family, maybe even his or her readers, clamoring for his or her next word? Well, today I'm giving you the hard truth about writing. So,
it's the raven's call, the werewolf's howl, the vampire's bite. You search through the woods for safety, but all you find is... Okay, rights.
because the hard truth is that writing is in fact all about sacrifices, or as Stephen King puts it, writing isn't about making money, getting famous, getting dates, getting laid, or making friends. In the end, it's about enriching the lives of those who will read your work, and enriching your own life as well. So to take the time to write and write well, it takes an incredible amount of sacrifice. It takes an incredible amount of time spent alone, because the act of writing is in fact a selfish act. It's something that you do in a room all by yourself. You're not surrounded by friends, family. It's not always fun, but it's something that you sit down and you do by yourself. It's an act that you perform alone. You do your writing behind a closed door, and you are the only one who is motivating yourself to write. It's an act. You have to sacrifice your time. You have to sacrifice other events. You have to be determined in this pursuit of writing. In order to devote enough time to bettering yourself as an author, to improving your writing, you need to sacrifice external activities. You need to sacrifice your time. You need to sit down at the keyboard. You need to sit down at the typewriter. You need to sit down in front of the computer. And if you're not willing to make these sacrifices, if you're expecting to still be able to do everything and have enough time to devote a strong amount of time to the activity of writing, writing requires a lot of mental clarity. Writing requires a lot of mental energy. And if you're not willing to sacrifice other activities that take away from this energy, if you're not willing to sit down at a computer, at a typewriter, at whatever you're writing on, you're never going to improve if you're not willing to make these sacrifices of writing. Everything else is in fact a distraction. Because if you come home from school or you come home from work and you feel completely drained mentally, and you just don't have the mental capacity, if you're not able to have that time and to have that space to sit down, and instead of watching 2 hours of TV at the end of the day, if you're not devoting your time to writing, you're not going to improve your writing skill. Your skill is going to stay flatlined, and you have to make sacrifices. You have to do things that other people aren't doing. Many people don't read enough books, and you need to be reading as much as you can, and this requires you to sacrifice external activities. This will require you to sacrifice TV time. It will require you to sacrifice playing video games, or going out to parties with your friends, or doing other things that take you away from the act of writing. And once again, writing is in fact, it's an act of sacrifice. You have to sacrifice these small dopamine inducing activity. You have to sacrifice your time spent with other people to devote your time alone, to devote to having time with yourself and your thoughts in a room all by yourself. It's so important that you value your writing time, and if you're not willing to make the sacrifice to value your writing time, you're never going to make it as an author. You're not going to be able to push through those hard times. You're not going to reach the deadline. You're not going to be able to write as much as you would as someone else who is making those sacrifices, someone else who is sacrificing a few hours of sleep, who is waking up early, who is not going to parties. That person is going to write more words than you. They're going to churn out more novels than you. They're going to improve so much quicker than you, and you have to be willing to make these sacrifices. Otherwise, you're going to struggle as an author, because half of the battle of writing is just having this time and having the space to sit down by yourself and write. The truth is that so many people are not willing to sacrifice for the craft of writing. They're not willing to make these sacrifices. So many people want to go out to parties. They want to stay out. They want to go to the bars. They want to see movies. They want to stay up to date with reality TV shows. They want to do all this stuff. They want to hang out with friends. And this leads to them to never having that space and never having that time when they are alone and they're able to actually sit down and write. You have to make sacrifices in order to improve your writing. To quote another writer, the poet Charles Bukowski writes, "If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind. Go all the way, all the way. It could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean derision, mockery, isolation." So what Bukowski is writing about in that poem is he's writing about the sacrifices that everyone has to make to write. To achieve anything, you have to make sacrifices. And if you're not willing to make these sacrifices, you're never going to improve. You can't be an Olympian if you refuse to sacrifice eating fast food. You can't be an Olympian if you're refusing to sacrifice partying and drinking and hanging out with friends instead of going out and working out and practicing your sport. Anything that you want to achieve requires sacrifice, and writing is the same way. Again, this channel is not about just promoting the idea of writing being easy and that anyone can just do it just on a whim. Writing requires sacrifice, and this is the hard truth. The hard reality is that writing is difficult. Not everyone is able to write. I strongly believe that everyone is capable of learning how to write, but this requires sacrifice in itself. You have to be willing to read books. You have to be willing to practice writing. You have to be willing to sacrifice your time and to be able to sit down for extended periods of time to actually write. If you're not willing to make these small sacrifices, if you think that you don't need to sacrifice anything and that writing should just be easy, you should just sit down and you should be able to go out and party with your friends, or you should just be able to watch 3+ hours of television every day and still just be able to write, you're going to find that it's incredibly difficult to accomplish this. You have to make sacrifices, and this is the hard truth about writing. Writing is all about making sacrifices, as it is with anything that you want to accomplish. And so just like with Olympians, just like with professional athletes, you have to have a long-term goal. You have to have a long-term vision and understand that you are working to improve your writing. You're working on a project that is long, and it requires the time, it requires effort. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's something that requires sacrifice day after day after day of you sitting down, returning to the page, returning to the keyboard, and writing for an extended amount of time. And again, if you're not willing to do this, you should probably not even attempt to become a writer, because if you're not willing to make sacrifices, you're not going to be successful as an author. Because the truth is that you don't write surrounded by friends. You don't write surrounded by family members. You don't write with your audience standing over your shoulder. You don't write with people in the room with you. Typically, you're not writing on a crowded street, and you're writing in isolation, and isolation requires sacrifice. It requires you to separate yourself from other people. It requires you to say no to certain things, and these are sacrifices within themselves. You write during tiny moments of isolation, and you do this by prioritizing getting rid of the filler. And you do this by prioritizing sacrificing the filler, sacrificing the distractions, saying no to things that take you away from the act of writing, saying no to things when you know you should be reading, or you should be writing that next chapter, or you should be writing that next scene. You have to understand that writing is truly an act of sacrifice. You can't have everything. And with that, keep it spooky. And of course, here's your writing prompt for sticking all the way through the video. After the long trip, Bill decided to blank. So set your timer and start writing. Thank you so much.
And now we must return to the shadows.
And then very briefly, I just want to say thank you for all the support you've given this channel. I very much appreciate everyone who has watched these videos. I appreciate everyone who has left comments, anyone who has given videos thumbs up. And I look forward to continuing making videos once I have made the transition in this move, once I get my setup reestablished, once I get my computer mailed to this new location, once I get everything shipped and everything set up, I will be continuing with videos. This week, I'm probably not going to be putting out shorts just because I'm going to be moving in the next day or so. So I just need to be focusing on taking care of last minute activities before that happens. And I'm just not going to have the time to be putting out shorts. But this is going to be the last long form video until I get everything reestablished in the new apartment. Thank you so much.